All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the formal investiture ceremony for Judge Rachel Bond to the Minnesota Court of Appeals. I'm Jennifer Frisch. I'm the Chief Judge of the Minnesota Court of Appeals. Before we begin today's ceremony, I would like to welcome the judges and presenters who are here for this important occasion. Please hold your applause until the procession has completed. I am pleased to welcome the Chief Justice and Associate Justices of the Minnesota Supreme Court. Next, we have the judges of the Minnesota Court of Appeals. Next, we have judges from the Federal District Court and the District Courts of the State of Minnesota. We also have judges from the Tax Court and the Workers' Compensation Court of Appeals. And finally, please welcome our special guest, Sam Edmonds, the President of the Minnesota Bar Association. Special guest, Mahle. And the Honorable Tim Walz, Governor of the State of Minnesota. I'd ask that you all please stand now for the presentation of the colors by the Minnesota State Patrol Honor Guard. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Welcome, everyone. Again, I'm Jennifer Frisch. I'm the 9th Chief Judge of the Minnesota Court of Appeals. This is my first investiture as Chief. Investitures, I've been to a lot of these in my time as a judge, and I find them to be very special events. They are an incredible opportunity for Minnesotans, the people that we serve, to learn about us, the people who serve you. And so on behalf of the members of the Minnesota Court of Appeals, thank you for joining us for this important event. I want to extend a particularly warm welcome to the friends and family of Judge Bond, her husband Steve Manson, their children Anna and Alex, her parents Martha and Jerry Bond, who traveled here from upstate New York, and her brother Ben, who traveled here from Maryland. I also want to recognize the significant contingent of Judge Bond's friends from law school and former co-clerks who have traveled far and wide to join her in this celebration today. It is my honor and privilege to introduce you to Judge Rachel Bond. Judge Bond succeeds our former Chief Judge Susan Siegel as the Court of Appeals representative from the 5th Congressional District. Judge Siegel, without the permission or approval of her colleagues, has retired, but will continue her public service as a senior judge on our court. So please join me in congratulating Judge Siegel on her retirement and thanking her for her distinguished public service. Judge Bond joined our court on January 3rd of this year. She attended law school at Boston University and then clerked for the Honorable Boyce Martin, Jr. of the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit. She practiced law as a civil litigator at well-respected firms in Washington, D.C. and Minneapolis. She most recently served as an assistant state appellate public defender and managing attorney with the Office of the Minnesota Appellate Public Defender for a total of 18 years. And during that time, she appeared before our court and the Supreme Court in dozens of matters, distinguishing herself as a persuasive, thoughtful, and straightforward advocate of the highest integrity and professionalism, a champion of the rule of law, and a powerful voice for equal justice under the law for all Minnesotans. And as our newest colleague, she has seamlessly integrated into our collegial court, contributing that same thoughtful, persuasive, and straightforward voice committed to the equal application of the rule of law for all Minnesotans. We are so grateful to have you as our newest colleague. I must thank Governor Tim Walz, his selection team consisting of Chief of Staff Chris Schmitter, General Counsel Mary Fee, Deputy General Counsel Adam Miller, Chair of the Judicial Selection Commission, Aaron Sinberg-Porter, and all of the members of the Judicial Selection Commission. Judge Bond is Governor Walz's 11th appointment to our court. We are keeping you and your team very busy. But Governor Walz, we and all Minnesotans are so grateful for your careful and thoughtful process in appointing judges to our court who are trustworthy, professional, collegial, and committed to equal justice under the law. And with that, it is now my pleasure and honor to introduce the Governor of the state of Minnesota, Tim Walz.
Thank you, Chief Judge Frisch, and thank you for filling big shoes and already off to a great start in leading a really important group of judges. Chief Justice Hudson and members of the Minnesota Supreme Court, thank you for your continuous service to Minnesota. Representing the federal bench, Jeff Bryan is here. Judge Bryan, it's good to see you again. You know a little something about this court, so it's good to see you here. Members of the judiciary, friends, and then of course, Judge Bond and her family. We couldn't be more grateful for your decision to serve the people of Minnesota. We couldn't be more grateful for the background that you bring, defending those in so many cases that would feel intimidated in a court. You were their voice, and you brought the energy and the passion to make sure that we truly live up to equal justice under the law, that everyone is heard. I would just say, and I appreciate the Chief Judge's comments on the judicial selection process. I oftentimes say this and people hear it. I theoretically understood as governor I would appoint judges. I didn't understand at the deepest level how big of impact that makes. And I also, like I think many Minnesotans, like we do with so many things in Minnesota, it's really good and we take it for granted. We should never do that with our judiciary because we don't have to look too far to the east to see what can happen in courts when they start to cross over into that space of highly charged politics. This is a court that's there to do the work. This is a court that is a co-equal branch of government that is above that. And I have to say, the judicial selection process, the justices who are in here, the public, the members who sat on that, and the integrity of the Minnesota judiciary has protected that. And when I hear from other governors, these courts, and the Court of Appeals is talked about, rises above it. I think it's where a lot of others wished their judiciary could stay in this space. And so I would like to take credit for these great appointments. I do, because I get blamed for all the bad stuff, so I do take credit for it. But I need to be very clear. This is a judiciary that understands. They send the best and brightest forward, those that are committed. They choose amongst themselves and make sure, and then the integrity of our courts is not questioned, because that is absolutely foundational to the rule of law. And Judge Bond, you bring a wealth and a lifetime of experience. You have spent that time in your career making sure, as I said again, that the laws are applied equally to all. So your decision, and I would say this, like so many of these things, your family's along for the ride, as they have been, but they should be, and I know they are, as proud as Minnesota is of what you've done, and as proud of what you will do. So my duty here, and once I do it, I say it, and then you are independent and on your own, away from the executive branch. My job with this is, it is my honor to present to you Judge Rachel Bond.
Thank you, Governor Walz. It is now my honor and pleasure to welcome the Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, Natalie Hudson.
Good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon. It is a privilege to be here today to celebrate this momentous occasion, the investiture of Judge Rachel Bond to the Minnesota Court of Appeals. I'm Natalie Hudson, and I have the great honor of serving as Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court. And on behalf of the judges and the staff of the entire Minnesota judicial branch, I want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. And to Governor Walz, thank you for your continued support of our judiciary and for your commitment to appointing judges who bring integrity, expertise, and a deep sense of justice to the bench. To Chief Judge Jennifer Frisch, my fellow judges and justices, members of the legal community, and dedicated public servants, your presence today is a testament to the strength of our judicial system and the import of this particular moment. And to Judge Bond's family and friends and loved ones, I know how much this day means to you. Your support and encouragement have helped bring her to this moment, and we are so pleased to be able to share in this celebration with you. You know, an investiture is always a very special occasion. It is a moment of reflection on the path that has brought a judge to this point, and a moment of anticipation of the journey ahead. And so today we recognize not only Judge Bond's impressive career and dedication to the law, but also the trust that has been placed in her to serve the people of Minnesota with wisdom, fairness, and integrity. To that end, the appointment of a judge is never a decision made lightly. It is a process that requires great care and deep deliberation and a commitment to ensuring that the people of Minnesota are served by individuals of the highest integrity and ability. And you heard Governor Walz mention this, but I too want to take a moment to express my gratitude to the Judicial Selection Commission for their tireless efforts in identifying and recommending outstanding candidates to the governor to sit on this bench. Their work is critical in maintaining a judiciary that is fair, impartial, and reflective of the values that we hold so dear. Again, thank you to Governor Walz for his dedication to appointing judges who bring not only legal expertise, but also a deep commitment to justice and equity. His selection of Judge Bond exemplifies that commitment. And as Governor Walz noted, Judge Bond's breadth of experience in criminal appellate law and her dedication to ensuring fair and equitable justice makes her an exceptional addition to the Minnesota Court of Appeals. Judge Bond, you now step into a role that carries great responsibility, but also great opportunity, the opportunity to shape the law, to ensure that justice is administered fairly, and to serve as a guardian of the rights of all Minnesotans. As you well know, the Minnesota Court of Appeals plays a vital role in our judicial system. It is often the final stop for those seeking justice, as it reviews the vast majority of appeals in our state and provides clarity and consistency in the law. It is a court where legal precedent is shaped, where difficult questions are answered, and where the law is applied with precision, fairness, and care. Having served on the Court of Appeals myself for 13 years, I can attest to the intellectual rigor and responsibility that comes with this role. The work of an appellate judge is demanding. It requires deep legal analysis, careful deliberation, and a steadfast commitment to the rule of law. Every decision must be rendered with fairness, impartiality, and an understanding that the outcomes will affect not only the individuals before the court, but also the broader legal landscape of our state. Judge Bond, as you take your place on this esteemed court, you join a distinguished body of jurists who are committed to upholding the highest principles of justice. The Court of Appeals is also a deeply collegial and collaborative institution where judges challenge and refine each other's thinking, always striving to reach well-reasoned and just decisions. Of course, you will bring your own unique voice to the court. You will bring your experience, your intellect, and your deep commitment to justice. All of that will serve the people of Minnesota well, but it will also enrich the work of your colleagues. Again, it is an enormous responsibility, but also an extraordinary opportunity. An opportunity to, again, shape the law, to ensure fairness in every case, and to contribute to a judicial system that Minnesotans can trust and rely on. And there is no doubt, absolutely no doubt in my mind, that you are more than ready to take on this challenge. I say to the folks here in this room today that Judge Bond's journey to the bench is one defined by excellence, dedication, and a steadfast commitment to justice. Her impressive career spans both public service and private practice. As a managing attorney at the Office of the Minnesota Appellate Public Defender, she has been a tremendous leader, supervising attorneys, guiding complex appeals, and advocating for justice at the highest levels. Her work, as the governor mentioned, has given voice to those who otherwise might not be heard, ensuring that every individual receives fair treatment under the law. To that end, her advocacy before our court, the Supreme Court, was always superb. The court could always rely on her written and oral advocacy to help us untangle complex legal issues, criminal law issues in particular, and make reasoned and fair decisions. And I will tell you, after having been on the bench now for almost a quarter of a century, there are certain lawyers that, as a judge, you're always glad to see walk in the room. You almost get a smile on your face when you see certain people walk in, because you know you're going to get the analytical, the substantive analytical and practical advice and help that you need to make the decisions that we need to make as a court. And you were one of those judges, Judge Bond. When she walked in the room, the court knew that we were going to get expert advice, and that can be a rare thing. So thank you for that. Before all of that, though, she also honed her legal skills in private practice at Faegre and Benson and Sherman and Sterling, where she gained valuable experience in both criminal and civil law. Her clerkship with Judge Boyce Martin, Jr. on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit provided her with an early foundation in appellate decision-making, an experience that undoubtedly prepared her for the role she steps into today. And beyond her professional achievement in the courtroom, Judge Bond has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to the legal community and the broader pursuit of justice. She has served on the Minnesota Supreme Court Advisory Committee on the Rules of Civil Appellate Procedure, working to improve and refine the appellate process. And again, I can tell you that is a committee that this court, the Supreme Court, relies on heavily, and it's a select group of attorneys that we ask to serve on that committee. We want attorneys with the kind of expertise and skill that a Rachel Bond brings. She also has helped shape the next generation of legal minds as an adjunct professor at Mitchell Hamlin School of Law, imparting her knowledge of criminal procedure and appellate advocacy. And through her work with the Great North Innocence Project, she has fought to correct wrongful convictions and uphold the fundamental principles of fairness in our system. Judge Bond, know that as you take your rightful place on the Minnesota Court of Appeals, you do so with the confidence and admiration of your colleagues, the legal community, and the people of Minnesota. Your journey to this moment has been defined by your hard work, your keen intellect, your deep integrity, and an unwavering belief in the principles of justice and fairness. Those same qualities will guide you as you take on this new role. And so on behalf of the entire Minnesota Judicial Branch, I offer my warmest congratulations and welcome. May your tenure on the court be filled with wisdom, purpose, and the satisfaction of knowing that your work is making a profound difference in the lives of Minnesotans. Congratulations.
Thank you, Chief Justice. Here to speak on behalf of Judge Rachel Bond is Mahle. Ann is a senior vice president at Teach for America, where she leads its governmental affairs, public funding, and public policy work. Prior to that, Ann was a litigation associate at the Fagery firm, along with our very own Judge Bond. Ann began her career teaching in bilingual fourth grade classroom in Texas. She received her JD from the University of California, Berkeley. Please join me in welcoming Ann Mahle.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon. Thank you to Chief Judge Frisch, Chief Justice Hudson, and Governor Walz for their thoughtful, kind, and very timely words this afternoon. Thank you, Rachel, for trusting me to give an introduction. It's just an incredible honor and privilege to introduce Rachel to all of you who might not know her as well, and to the people of Minnesota. In the spring of 2002, Jack Fribley, who headed a practice group at Fagery, came up to me and said, "Ann, we just hired this new associate from DC. She cares about human rights, and you should be friends with her. She's starting in a few weeks." As a second-year associate, when someone like Jack Fribley approaches you about anything, it's generally wise to be agreeable. And having recently moved back to Minnesota from being away for more than a decade, I honestly needed a few friends. A few weeks later, Jack introduced Rachel and I in a hallway, and admittedly, it was a little awkward. I think we both were like, okay, we should be friends. And he again enthusiastically noted that we needed to become friends because we both cared about human rights. We were both polite, and Rachel, like me, probably wondered why he was so insistent. Fast forward a few months, and Rachel and I were both drafted onto a mass tort litigation team, and one that would require us to know the ins and outs and haunts of Fargo and Williston, North Dakota. And from the learning curve of taking and defending hundreds of depositions, Rachel and I became friends, laughing over our travel to North Dakota, the ins and outs of big litigation, sharing stories of opposing counsel and witnesses, and talking about the work that interested us a little bit more, pro bono work, hers involving conceal and carry, and mine involving wolves and other species, and sharing the ins and outs of life at a big law firm. Rachel was always wise, incisive in her thinking, practical, spot on in her analysis, funny, and most of all, kind and empathetic. In the late summer of 2003, Rachel and Steve bought the house just 8 doors up the street from ours. And our relationship shifted from friends at work who occasionally hung out to neighbors with really a lot of shared interests to people who were truly friends. Shortly after my now husband David moved to Minnesota, Rachel invited us over to dinner. She was trying out this great new recipe, which is what she does when people come over. She tries new things. And as I walked in, I realized there was a minor glitch. I had forgotten to tell her that David was a vegetarian. And without a moment of hesitation, Rachel was whipping up a completely new pasta dish, making a joke about the situation, and made everyone feel at ease. She wanted us to feel welcome, especially David, who was new to town, and she was more interested in the conversation and sharing of food than fussing over an upended plan. These values of inclusiveness and welcoming are ever present with Rachel, and they are felt by those who know her best and by those who have only met her a few times. As Rachel and I continued to work, learn, and grow as lawyers at Faegre, it was clear that each of us wanted something different in our professional lives. Rachel was on maternity leave with Anna, and she started to explore positions at the public defender's office. I remember distinctly the conversation that we had when she shared that she was considering this move. She reflected on her colleagues at Faegre and the mentorship that she had received and the care that she had there. But she also had this deep belief in the rule of law and the desire to have a bigger impact on her community and her adopted home of Minnesota. The shift to the public defender's office was a big one for Rachel. The learning curve was steep, and she recognized this and dug into the work with energy and passion. She knew that the wins would be few, but ensuring that our Constitution was followed, that there were no violations of due process, that was what the work was about, and it made each and every case worth the effort. Driven by an abiding belief in the best of our country's foundational principles, Rachel represented her clients with conviction, clarity, and sometimes a win. But more than legal principles, Rachel recognized that each of her clients was a fellow human being, deserving of access, representation, and fair treatment under the law and by the courts. Somewhere along the way, Rachel, Steve, Anna, and Alex started joining my family for Thanksgiving. Since Rachel's family is in New York and Maryland, and Steve's family's in Canada, having them join our family's Thanksgiving celebrations over the years was natural. And no matter where the dinner was, at my parents' house, my aunt's house, never our house, it's too small, the Bond Manson crew is always expected and welcomed as a part of our broader family. Rachel and I have the great fortune of living just a bit east of Lake Harriet, and over the last 22 years, many of our conversations have been while walking around or along the lake. And for a good stretch of those years, we were pushing strollers, and the conversations were always wide-ranging, from raising kids to our respective work challenges, to updates and reflections on our families, to the news of the day, to places we had traveled, and to all the places that we wanted to travel to, and some real reminiscences of growing up with really incredible families who challenged us and shaped us into the people we are today. The strollers are long gone, but the long walks and the meandering conversations remain a staple of our friendship. One of Rachel's best qualities, which often comes out in our long walks, is that she's both interesting and interested. In our conversations, Rachel pulls out stories and information from her wealth of experiences to illuminate a point, to make an argument stronger, or to create a human connection. She is also profoundly interested in others. She asks great questions, probing, thoughtful, sometimes challenging, and always caring. Her questions exhibit a deep curiosity about people, and about the world around her, and not just for questioning's sake, but in the spirit of finding a stronger answer, developing a different path forward, and continuing to build human connection in the world. As Rachel takes this next step in her impactful career, I know that she will approach the work with the incredible combination that has characterized her work and life to date: persistent hard work, a willingness to learn and be challenged, an unflagging commitment to ensuring that every party that comes before her deserves the opportunity to be heard with integrity and an openness to listening, and finally, a deep reverence for and belief in the rule of law as the foundation of our civic life and our democracy. We are all lucky to have Rachel as one of our appellate court judges. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne. We are now at the point of the program where Judge Bond will take the oath of office. Judge Bond has asked Minnesota Supreme Court Associate Justice Theodora Gaïtas to administer the oath. And at this time, I'll invite Judge Bond and members of her family forward.
I, Rachel F. Bond,
I, Rachel F. Bond,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will discharge faithfully
and that I will discharge faithfully
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of Judge of the Minnesota Court of Appeals
of Judge of the Minnesota Court of Appeals
to the best of my judgment and ability,
to the best of my judgment and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God. I have to get my reading glasses or it would be a very short speech. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I am deeply honored to have been appointed to serve as a judge on the Minnesota Court of Appeals. It really is tremendously humbling to be here today. Thank you to Governor Walz for giving me this opportunity to serve and for the trust that he placed in me. Thank you to the governor's staff, Chris Schmitter, Adam Miller, Katie Funk, Mary Fee, and to the entire Judicial Selection Commission for your hard work on behalf of the people of Minnesota. Chief Justice Hudson, thank you for your remarks. Thank you so much to Justice Gaïtas, who has been a friend for many years, for administering the oath. Chief Judge Frisch, thank you for presiding at today's event and for your leadership on the court. And to all the judges on the Court of Appeals, thank you for welcoming me to the court and helping me adjust to this new role. I have appeared in front of the Court of Appeals for many years, and it is truly an honor now to become one of your colleagues. I would like to recognize Judge Siegel, who I see. Judge Siegel is my predecessor in the seat that is designated for the 5th Congressional District. Judge Siegel, I know I have big shoes to fill. Thank you for your service and your leadership on the court. So many other members of the judicial branch have offered me advice and encouragement over the years, and I'm so grateful for their support. In particular, I'd like to recognize Justice Judich, who is here today, and from the Court of Appeals, Judge Cleary and Judge Rodenberg. I would not be here today if not for the support that I have received from friends, colleagues, and mentors over the years. I am incredibly lucky to have a large group of wonderful, kind, very funny friends from Boston University School of Law, many of whom made the trip to be here today. Thank you for your love and support over the years. After law school, I had the great fortune to clerk for Judge Boyce Martin Jr., who at the time was the chief judge on the Sixth Circuit. Judge Martin was chambered in Louisville, Kentucky. I learned how to pronounce that correctly when I lived there. And Judge Martin was a true Kentuckian. He wore a bow tie every day. He once told me that the best way to beat the common cold was to have a shot of Kentucky bourbon and then take a nap. I have not tried that yet, but I'm holding it in my back pocket just in case. Judge Martin cared deeply about the law. He cared about the people who came before the court, and he cared about the court as an institution. He knew that the public needed to trust the work of the court system, and that the best way to accomplish that was for judges to uphold the rule of law and fairly and impartially decide every case. Judge Martin was a tremendous mentor to his law clerks, and I'm so happy that most of my law clerks are here today. They traveled from Kentucky, Tennessee, and North Carolina, so I'm also very happy that our weather cooperated. It is not always like this in Minnesota in March. I am originally from Rochester, New York. I went to law school and started my legal career on the East Coast. My husband Steve and I moved to Minnesota in 2002 when he was offered a position at the University of Minnesota. And when we got here, I began working as a litigation associate at Faegre and Benson. At Faegre, I met my dear friend Anne, who we heard from. Anne, thank you for being here today and speaking. I'm so grateful to have you, David, Anat, and Esther in our lives. Faegre is really where I learned to practice law. And more specifically, it's where I learned to practice law in Minnesota. Shortly after I started at Faegre, I drafted my first appellate brief. When the partner on the file gave it back to me with edits, he said, "Now, you're from out east, right?" And I said, "Yes." And it was suggested, intentional use of passive voice, that perhaps I consider toning down my writing a little bit. Because here in Minnesota, you can advocate zealously for your client while still maintaining a very high degree of civility and professionalism. And I have found that to be true. That aspect of our legal profession is something that we should be proud of and that all of us, judges and lawyers alike, should work to protect. Now, the person who epitomizes those combination of things for Minnesota lawyering, excellent advocacy, civility, and professionalism, is John Gordon. John was a partner at Faegre, who I had the great privilege of working with. John, thank you for your friendship and support over the years, and a few well-timed nudges to help me continue on this path. I also found that the Minnesota legal community had a robust tradition of pro bono work and public service. It was important to me to engage in that tradition, and so when I was at Faegre, I took some pro bono cases. One of the cases I took was with the Appellate Public Defender's Office. The issue in that case involved interpretation of our rights under the Minnesota Constitution to be free from unreasonable searches. I argued that case at the Court of Appeals, where it should be noted I lost, and then went on to argue it at the Supreme Court. And I loved that experience. I loved arguing about the law and constitutional rights. I loved serving the public by helping someone who otherwise would not be able to afford an attorney. And I even loved being grilled by an aggressive panel of appellate judges. Even though I was warned that most cases from the Appellate Public Defender's Office don't involve a novel, let alone winning, issue of constitutional law, in 2006 I decided to leave Faegre and I joined the Appellate Public Defender's Office full-time. And I worked there for the next 18 years, first as an assistant state public defender and then as a managing attorney. To the attorneys and staff of the Appellate Public Defender's Office, so many of you are here today, thank you for the privilege of being your colleague. You work incredibly hard under often very difficult circumstances to vindicate the constitutional right to counsel on appeal. Our justice system is better because of your service. And although she won't want me to, I want to recognize Kathy Middlebrook in particular. Kathy Middlebrook is the Chief Appellate Defender. She has spent her whole life in public defense. She has been my boss and my mentor and my friend. Kathy cares deeply about her clients, about the attorneys and the staff in the Appellate Public Defender's Office, and in the justice system as a whole. Thank you, Kathy, for everything that you do. My role is now as an impartial decision maker, not as an advocate, but I will carry the lessons that I have learned over the course of my career to my service on the court. I will remember that there are real people behind the cases that come to the court, that reviewing courts play a critical role in upholding the rule of law, protecting constitutional rights, and ensuring equal access to justice, and that every person who comes before our court deserves to be treated respectfully and fairly. Now, before I sit down, I'm going to talk about my family. To my husband, Steve, thank you for being my rock, for always making me laugh, and for your love and support in this and all things. To my awesome kids, Anna and Alex, thank you for your encouragement on this journey. I'm very proud of you, and I love you very much. To my brother Ben, who's here from Maryland, and to all of my family here in the U.S. and in Canada, I know you are all here in spirit, and thank you for your love. There are many family members who are no longer with us, but whose influence I continue to feel. That includes my great-grandfather, Wells Parker, who began practicing law in New York State in 1898, and would drive his horse and buggy to visit his farmer clients out in the country when they couldn't make it into town. It includes my grandfather, Al Bond, who was a litigator who appeared in county courthouses across western New York State and with whom I shared a birthday. And it includes some independent and strong women. My great-grandmother, Jay, who in the late 1920s bicycled by herself across Europe, which I always thought was very cool, and my grandmother, Louise, who was the beating heart of the family. The people who have shaped me the most, though, are, of course, my parents, Martha and Jerry, who are here from Geneva, New York. Thank you for your endless love and support, for teaching me to approach the world with curiosity and compassion, and for letting me find my own path. Thank you all for being here today and sharing this day with me.
Thank you, Judge Bond, and welcome. Now that Judge Bond has formally taken her seat as a judge on the Court of Appeals, it has been a long-time tradition of the Court of Appeals to have the president of the Minnesota State Bar Association participate in our investiture ceremonies as a representative of the greater legal community. The current president of the Minnesota State Bar Association is Sam Edmonds, who will say a few words on behalf of the Bar Association. Please welcome Sam Edmonds.
Well, good afternoon, Chief Justice and Justices of the Court, judges of the Court of Appeals, the rest of the esteemed judges here in Minnesota. Thanks for having me here today. It's my pleasure to help welcome Judge Bond to the bench and deliver some brief remarks on behalf of all of the lawyers of Minnesota. I'm so happy to be here today to mark this momentous occasion and to celebrate with all of you. I bring greetings from all of the lawyers of Minnesota and our nearly 14,000 members of the State Bar Association. Now, I get to be at the end of the agenda today, so I'm going to do a little bit of reading the room and realizing that maybe I should keep it to 2 or 3 minutes so that we can finish this. So I'll get through it quick. Judge Bond, as we have heard, you've had the significant and very unique experience of representing Minnesota's citizens when they appear as defendants in some of the most important appellate cases in our state. So Judge Bond, you know what it's like to actually represent an individual who is often not like you and me, an individual who's facing what might be the most stressful, difficult, challenging moments in their life. And I think it's that experience, representing real people with real families and real life problems, that gives Judge Bond such great preparedness to be a judge of our Court of Appeals. So I'll echo the sentiment that I think our judicial selection process here in Minnesota has worked again. Governor Walz and his team and the Judicial Selection Commission has made some great decisions, and this one is exactly the same. I always say this, we're very lucky here in Minnesota. The connection we have between the bench and the bar is especially strong. But I can tell you that from personal experience. I travel around the country, I meet with bar leaders and presidents from other states. It's not the same everywhere. Here in Minnesota, we cooperate, we collaborate, we work together, we have a great relationship. In other states, it can be a little bit more contentious between the bench and the bar, so we are lucky. The Bar Association is committed to continuing this great tradition of cooperation with the courts and with you, Judge Bond. And we need that cooperation now more than ever. Many of the principles that are so fundamental to our Bar Association and to our courts are under attack. The MSBA, and I know the judicial branch, will remain steadfast in our commitment to an inclusive and welcoming environment for all members of the legal community. And at the Bar Association, we are not going to stay silent while the rights of individuals or groups are threatened. We believe that the diversity of our profession strengthens us, and we will continue to welcome and support every member of our community, regardless of their backgrounds and characteristics. We also at the bar will never waver in our commitment to the independence of our courts and our judges. We will condemn and we will resist efforts to erode judicial independence. And I've been making the circuit saying this everywhere, but I'll say it again today. We reaffirm our full-fledged support for our courts, for the independence of our judiciary, and to you, Judge Bond, as you join the court and help uphold the rule of law. And finally, of course, the rule of law must be for everyone, not only those who can afford it. In times of crisis, people must turn to the legal system for protection, for resolution, for justice. It might be a single parent seeking child support, or a homeowner fighting foreclosure, or a victim of domestic abuse pursuing a protective order. Access to legal representation is critical and often life-changing, and access to our courts is the same. So the bar will continue to work with the judicial branch and our courts to ensure access to justice for all. So, Judge Bond, the bar hopes to continue this long tradition of cooperation with the judicial branch and the courts in the years to come. We look forward to working with you and the other members of the court to help achieve our mutual goals. So Judge Bond, on behalf of all of the lawyers of the state of Minnesota, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Sam. That brings us to the conclusion of today's investiture ceremony. I want to give a special thanks to Pam Heino for making the plans and arrangements. A reception will be held in the back of the room immediately following the ceremony. And now that I ask that you please rise while the honor guard retires the colors, and please remain standing as the judges and special guests process out.